Welcome to Cultural Catalyst, the podcast that shines a light on the creative visionaries working behind the scenes in arts and entertainment. I'm your host, Allison McNeil, CEO and founder of McNeil Creative Enterprises. With over 20 years of experience advocating for equity and sustainable growth in the arts and entertainment, I've seen firsthand the power of the behind-the-scenes creatives. Here on Cultural Catalyst, the creatives behind the curtain take center stage. Let's celebrate the people who make the magic happen. Let's dive in. Thank you to our sponsor, Interim Financial Management. Check out more in the show notes. Today's guest is Candace Jackson. Candace is the founder of CJAM Consulting and a powerhouse behind some of the most transformative arts and cultural projects in the country. For more than 25 years, she's helped theater, dance, film, visual arts, and cultural institutions, especially in communities of color, rethink how they grow, build, and sustain their work. Through CJAM, she's led everything from million-dollar capital projects to business model overhauls, helping organizations strengthen their operations, expand their capacity, and deepen their impact. Whether she's advising a startup or working with a high-profile company and the government, Candace brings a clear-eyed strategic approach rooted in care, community, and long-term vision. Please join me in welcoming Candace to the show. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm like, that sounds good. Some of those things are actually interesting to me.
Right? It's like, oh, that is what I did. Or
Some of it, some days, all of it.
okay. All right. I am so excited about talking with you specifically because the work that you do is incredibly important. Again, of course, it's behind the scenes because it's a cultural catalyst, but it's one of those roles that you don't know exists. So we are going to ask and hopefully get into some great conversation about your journey. So what inspired you? Well, first of all, can you describe what it is that you do?
Can describe it. Will it make sense? I don't know. I describe it in multiple ways. So what I would say is when asked about my work and my career, because that question comes up all the time, especially when you live in coastal cities like New York and LA. It's one of the first questions you hear. What do you do? So usually I describe my work in the context of the conversation that I'm having, right? Like if it's an arts person or in an arts context, I just sort of like launch right into all of the jargon. And then if it's not, I describe it by saying what I do is organizational development for arts and cultural institutions. One of the questions that I get is, oh, so you work with people, you're an arts manager. Oh, because I used to say I'm an arts manager or an arts leader, depending on the person, right? But I do not say I'm an arts administrator. That's more nuanced. Well, I know we'll probably get into that. But I used to say arts management because that's what my degrees say and it makes sense to me. And then people say, oh, you manage artists. And I'm like, yeah, no. But I understand why you asked that question. So I then shifted to, over time, organizational development for arts and cultural institutions. So I, Candace, and CJAM, my company, are both focused on organizations. Candace, as an individual, does work with other individuals, but individuals who are also focused on organizations. So I don't work with individual artists, meaning around artist management in the ways that people maybe perhaps traditionally think of it as a manager, as an agent. No, that's not what we do. It's all of the business end of arts and culture. That's what I say. So it's all the stuff that makes what you see on stage, what you experience in the museum, what you encounter as you're walking through the festival. All of the things that made it happen are the things that we do, the things that you don't see. It is the finance, it's the management, it's the marketing, it's the physical space, the planning of that physical space. That's what we mean when we say capital development. All of the things that bring the art to the people that you don't think about, those are the things that we do. And so if we're talking about organizational development, sort of like more the jargon, I start to say things like strategic planning and business planning, because it is that, right? Strategic and business planning for arts and cultural institutions. And I say institutions, and we work with institutions rather than individuals because, well, that's what I was trained to do. It was really about my experience wanting to make sure that the arts and cultural organizations that are designed by, focused on peoples of color, or in some way connected to communities of color can be around for a long time. So how do we make sure that the work that we do supports the health, the sustainability, as we like to say, but as importantly, the ability to thrive and persist are the things that we do and why we work with organizations.
Mhm. Listen, I understand you because similarly, when people ask me to describe, I'm like, okay, what can I say? I will actually land, right? Because it's not something that you see every day. You don't hear about these roles publicized, but
Yeah.
without them, a lot of the sustainability efforts are impacted. And I like to think about it as you were talking, I was thinking about arts and cultural institutions. They have an artistic arm and they have an arm that handles the business behind the artistic. Your work is all about, like you said, the business side. So
Mhm.
while an arts organization, you might see them on stage, they can stay on stage because there's someone like Candace's company with CJAM working behind the scenes to help support the organization's financial sustainability or
Yeah.
strategic partnerships and things like that. I was asked one time what I did. I had
Mhm.
my description, and then they said, "Oh, so you write grants for people?" Sorry.
Yeah, I used to get that question too.
No. But, okay, so we've talked about the niche. Like, it's very niche what you're doing.
Mhm.
How in the world did this come to be? Like, what inspired you to pursue this path and know
Yeah.
it could be a career?
I didn't know that it could be a career in the way that I'm doing it now, but I was sure that it would be. So you said niche, and I think you're probably right in that it is niche, but I don't think of it as niche as much because we do so much. We touch so much of the organizational frame, to be jargony again. Like, we touch so much and we interact with organizations on all the different things that impact the organization's health, that I don't think of it as niche. Sometimes I think it might be too diffuse. We're doing all the different things. I am not a marketing strategist. I do not fundraise, but we do build marketing and fundraising strategy, right? With partners, but I'm not a fundraiser. I don't write grants. Used to, but don't anymore. So when I was in college, I went into college as an acting major because, well, why not? If you're going to be in the arts, I was clear that I wanted to be in the arts. And so it was going to meet. How did I? Well, I wanted to do one of two things. I either wanted to be an actor or I wanted to be an obstetrician. And it's so interesting because I don't think about that at all. So I guess I chose right. I don't think about that anymore at all. But when I thought about the things that interested me in particular in high school, like what am I really, really intrigued by? I was intrigued by the body, the female body, and the creation of life. And my mom is a nurse, and so I would like study the books, and I'd be like, "Wow, like this is fascinating to me." And then, like most people in high school, I also was in performances, in plays and such, and discovered I had some talent, or so said the other folks. And so I decided I wanted to really focus on the arts because, I mean, I grew up dancing and grew up singing and had my little girl group. We would call the PYTs.
The girl group reality was I was in JAM and the initials stood for our names. I can't, but wait, can we give flowers to the place where you danced or did your theater?
Let's see. When I would, well, first of all, it was in our house here. I'm in Florida right now, which
Okay.
is where I was born. I live in New York and have lived for more than half my life. So I consider myself a New Yorker above anything else. But I happen to be vacationing right this moment in Florida. So it was in our house, girl. We used to do, me and my cousins and my sister, routines to, what do you call it? Commercials. Like all the cereal. Remember Saturday cartoons? All the cereal and the toy commercials. So we used to make up dance routines to all the commercials. And then, of course, American Bandstand and MTV and BET and all that stuff.
Yep.
So I didn't dance formally or train because we just didn't have those sort of resources until I got to high school and then in school. And I danced with the formal company, was Trosan West African Dance Company, but they had instructors who also had specific lanes for training. And so I danced through them. And I remember my instructor, Karen, who I saw at IABD like 20 years after the fact, in January, and I was like, Karen, oh my God, but that's not what this podcast is about right this second. So dancing, and then I had my little girl group, as I said, PYTs, we were so fly. Oh my, in elementary school in DC, because I grew up in DC, even though I was born in Florida. And so I was clear that I was talented, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted to focus. So I thought about acting as a major, dance as a minor, went to Howard University, and dance as a major was the only route. There was no dance minor. I couldn't minor in dance. And when I got into acting, I was good, but I realized that I didn't think I had anything to say to the world that others were not already saying. And while I thought I was talented, it didn't give me joy in the way that I saw some of the other students. And I was not probably confident enough to like really go headlong into that triple threat space, be it actor, a singer, and a dancer, because as I said, I didn't actually start to have formal training in dance until high school. I wasn't dancing at 3 years old and 4 years old. So I think I thought it would be a longer road for me, but probably most particularly when I was a freshman, I got on what's called the run crew for a show. And I think we called it run crew in graduate school, but same thing. I was on the production team in as a freshman for what was the show? I think it was E-Man, Everyman. And I was introduced to props, and someone asked me, "Would you like to be our props mistress?" And I was like, "A what?" And then I learned about stage management, and I was like, "What is this?" And the stage manager, assistant stage manager talked to me. They were seniors, they were juniors or seniors, so like super fly, super like, oh my God, y'all are so grown, like amazing, right? I remember her name is Tanya Garnett. And it was like, you must be serious about this.
That
If
sounds
this is
like
what
her.
you want to do,
Yes.
there's no playing around. And I was like, huh? I don't even know who introduced me to her, but said, we need a props mistress. Would you be interested? And I did it and was hooked. And I was like, and what is this thing called a prop book? And you like writing what into stage direction? And then from there, I learned about dramaturgy. And it was like this whole other world that was happening that, as I say still, that made possible what you see on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, say more. There's lighting and all of this sort. And so I knew I wasn't a lighting designer, but I took the lighting classes. I took the set classes. That was definitely a no. It was like, wait, that's too much work. It's like hard labor.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was became a props mistress for that particular show, learned much, much more about stage management. And Tanya Garnett, introduced me to stage management and arts administration as a major.
Mm.
And I was like, what? And I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this. And she said, in order to do this, though, you have to take all these business classes and you're automatically declared as a business minor. Remember, because I said I didn't have a minor.
Right.
I couldn't take dance as a minor. And I was like, this is what I want to do.
Wow.
And when I started taking classes in the business school, because you're automatically declared as a business minor, it just opened up for me. It was management and marketing and accounting and all of these things. And I was always like, how does this apply to theater? How do I create and production budgets? And everything in management and accounting is like widgets, widgets, widgets.
Mm-hmm.
Create them faster, create them cheaper, create them, market them in a much more attractive way. It could be the same product, but it's like what we now say as like the what do you call it? The luxury line and then the diffusion line, but it's all produced by the same company, right? Like this is the stuff that we were learning. And I was like, but in theater, there is no economies of scale. You don't produce it faster, cheaper, rinse, repeat, because every show is new. And so you build those costumes anew every time. So this is really fascinating. Like, how do we do this? So anyway, that's a long way of saying my whole world opened up. And that's when I shifted my major to what it was called at Howard, arts administration, and then also studied arts management in graduate school. And so I knew I wanted to work in the spaces that created business for the arts.
Hmm. You know what? I just have to remark on how you lit up. I know this is an audio podcast, so those that are listening can't see, but Candace lit up while talking about her journey and talking about how she tried a few things, saw if it worked out, and said, maybe not that. But then when she about finding where it felt right, it just you could tell that it's something that you're passionate about. And I think when I think about these careers in particular, because it isn't something that you naturally know is happening, if you are curious and willing to be like self-reflective, like, maybe this is something that I can do, or I'm not doing that. I think it is powerful because, like, in college, that's what many people are doing, trying to figure out what is it that I'm doing. And so, yeah, I love that you talked about, oh, I tried this, that wasn't it. Then I tried because that's a part of the journey. Just while
100%. And you gotta be willing to. I think
Mhm.
there's a desire when we talk about failure in a lot of different ways now. We talk about failing up, and we know usually that's in the context of white men. They always fail up, but the ability to fail, given space and resources to fail and try again. Like, there's just so much about our work, everybody's industry, where that's not allowed, and how it's so important in arts and culture because we say failure because that's the word that people understand. It's really test and what other industries, business industries call research and development, right? To be able to have space to experiment. But yeah, you said I lit up because I was also recalling just how I felt as an 18-year-old, as a 19-year-old, when you're like trying to search, you're searching as a college student. And I was like, what do I want to do? And I wasn't feeling like, oh, I could just be here and I'll figure it out eventually because I had to pay my way through college. And I did not have time, is how I felt. I was like, I don't have time to just sort of like be pussyfooting around and I'll figure it out. Folks running around and hanging out and they'd be at school for a fifth year and I'd be like, who pays for that? I don't have those kinds of resources. I gotta make this thing work. I gotta figure it out. But I wanted joy. I wanted fulfillment. I wanted to be happy. I did not want to say I did it and okay, so what kind of job am I gonna get now? But yes, I was recalling just how I was feeling because I really did feel like Nirvana, like, or Eureka. I found it. Like, I had no idea this thing existed, but as soon as I opened that box, baby.
That's what I say about this, like, it gets you. It either I feel like for me, it hit me and then it was like, I'm not leaving this industry. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way I can it's like it finds you.
I was in Mexico City last week just for 3 days because Mexico City is amazing. But I was talking to my friend's mom and we were just having drinks, just chilling. And she was like, I decided at a young age didn't want to work and I don't want to work. I'm good. And I know a lot of people like that. And my immediate reaction to that was, I don't not want to work. I love what I do.
Mhm.
I love not every day,
Right.
not every client, not every spreadsheet, not every strategic plan. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't want to do none of that today. But I do want to be here. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it when I want to do it and how I want to do it. But yeah, I dig it. So I never felt once I moved into the space formally after school, I never felt I chose wrong or what else should I be doing?
Mhm. And for the listeners that are, like, just intrigued by this story, Candace had jobs at arts organizations before she founded her own company, and so, like, the ability to be in the space, learn, and contribute to what's happening, and then decide, "You know what? Imma start my own company." That is no small feat. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it, it's a total other thing to get clients that pay you for doing it. So I just
Yeah.
want to give Candace her flowers because that is no small feat. And to have been doing it, has it been 19 years that you've had CJAM?
Yeah, you are exactly right. 19 years. Wait, it's 2025? 19 years. I was trying to figure out, it was August, end of the summer. As those who are in the arts and cultural industry know, August is really, really quiet. Most people are gone. New York is empty in general, but arts and culture by and large is very quiet because folks are gearing up and preparing for the season, right? Preparing for seasons that start in September. Although post COVID, things are certainly a lot more fluid for different companies. But if you're not a summer stock or a summer festival entity, August is very quiet. And so I was at the Apollo at the time as head of operations. And I was like, what next? I don't know that I want to go into a whole nother season. So yeah, I remember it's hot. I was somewhere in somebody's pool in August and I was like, it's time. Time to leap, folks. But, and thank you for the flowers, takes one to know one. So right back at you. But to be super transparent, it was not a dream like many things that come to pass. It was an accident. I was tired. I was like, I'm gonna sit down because I was tired of productions and be great being downstairs, run downstairs from, well, when I say downstairs, be in my office, run downstairs to the theater, feel the flow, feel the energy, and then be like, okay, I got to go back upstairs to finish something, whatever. And then it'd be 10 o'clock and then it'd be 11 o'clock. And I was like, it's great, but I don't know, I'm tired. I'm too young to be this kind of tired. So I was like, I'm going to shift. And I knew I didn't want to go into another organization. So I decided to just pause. So I shouldn't say accident. It was a pause, actually, when I said I wanted to just chill for a minute and then hire myself out because I want to do nothing. I mean, I am a Virgo after all. I was like, well, let me work and reach out to some folks and say that I'm in a transition space and interested in some contract work because I had great experience hiring lots of consultants because prior to the Apollo, when I was a funder at the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, we engage consultants all the time to do all the work that I would eventually do, the strategic planning, business planning, capital development, et cetera. So I had experience with engaging those folks. So I called some of the people who did that work just on a pause. And it's 2025.
I hear like the skill, the relationships, the boldness to say, here, while I'm in this pause, I'm just going to reach out and see what happens. Again, I think the energy that comes with an entrepreneur is distinct because not everybody's willing to bet on themselves. And even if they're not building a whole company, even as a freelancer, I think it's fascinating. Was there a moment in particular where you were like, CJAM is going to be my life's work? Like, this is what I'm doing.
Yes, but because I want to be sure, I would tap my toe back in space and just see. I talk about accidents because I mean, I do believe in serendipity and I do believe in things like deja vu quite strongly, actually, because for me, if I experience deja vu, I think, oh, okay, so if I've been here before, that means I'm going in the right direction. This already happened. Now, okay, keep moving, Candace, because you're going in the right direction. That's why I love deja vu. I'll be like, oh my God, this happened. Confirmation. It's confirmation. And so CJAM was not CJAM. It was just Candace out here in these streets. She don't know what she doing, working, contracting. And I was like, okay, I had a couple of meetings around like, how do you set your day rate? What's your hourly rate? And how do you do that? And I was messing it up, girl, because I was like, I was basing it on things like and I'm going to answer your question, but this popped into my head real quick. I was basing it on like my last salary. Makes perfect sense, right? And then like I would base my hourly rate on that, and then people would be like, "Oh, that's a lot," or "That's way too low," depending. Or and then the day rate, because I was like, "Oh, I'm really doing it. I have a day rate." But I would say I was messing it all up because what I didn't factor in was the overhead and the insurance and employer portion of taxes, right? Like all the things that I knew because I was head of operations and co-head of HR. I knew these things. I knew what the numbers are. I could tell you, spit them out. I could tell you what FICA, SUDA, FUDA, all those things were. But I wasn't thinking about it in the context of like my own apparatus, my own environment, my own system structure. So we mixed all that, but I was in an office with a client, and the accountant said to me, Candace, we're going to all work for you someday. And I was like, what do you say? He believes in me. He was like, but I'm going to say this. I can't write all those words on the check. It's too long. It's Jackson because I couldn't figure out a name. I was like, it's not sexy, it's not nothing. It's just okay, it's my name. Candace Jackson, arts and management, because I was very clear. I wanted to be arts focused and management focused because it didn't have to all be arts and cultural organizations. Candace Jackson, arts and management consultant. He was like, that is too long. I cannot fit that on this check. What do you want me to do? And that's how CJAM was born. And then fast forward 2 years later, we didn't have texts the way we do now, but my friend and colleague said, "Did you name," and I think I told you this maybe once, but I was like he was like, "Did you name CJAM because of Duke Ellington's CJAM Blues?" Yep. He sent me a clip and I was like, "Oh my God, that's a real song." So I was like, that wasn't a deja vu moment, but I do feel like there was serendipity in that, right? Total accident, but I love it. It makes perfect sense. And so moments like that, and then another moment when I had a client, the executive director was leaving. This happened twice, or maybe 3 times. And the board asked if I would consider sort of filling in, stepping into the role in an interim capacity as executive director, and then going back out. Those were moments when I realized, yeah, I don't want to be in the organizational frame in this way anymore, like permanently. And it is because of the way that CJAM was constructed, I was building and shaping the company that I realized, no, that it's really that because the ability to create this lane that is what we now call executive management consulting, to be able to go inside of the organization and do the work on an interim basis, do the search for the executive director, or do the what people call coaching. We don't really call it coaching, but do the partnership with the executive team made me know it's CJAM. I want to do it in the frame that is CJAM, not in the organization. But dipping my toe back in the organization a couple of times helped me know that for certain.
But what I hear you saying, and I think this is so important, again, like just like you did with even finding the space that you worked in, it's like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I want to be in this space, but I don't want to be in this. Like, it's like this level of clarity that you had about what you wanted, what you needed, what was best for you, and then figuring out a way to make it work and get paid for it. Like that, I think that's incredible. And then the other part of it is like CJAM Consulting 19 years later, there are people that decide to work with you because of who you are, because of how you work. Talk a little bit about how you know that there's a right fit for working with you.
That's a really great question. I think to connect that to the last statement that you just made, I believe that what you shared, knowing what works for you, making decisions about the ways you want to work or don't want to work, the thought process is an evolutionary one. It's not a conversation that I had with myself. It's not a single conversation. It just always shifted. And in those conversations had to be a level of growth, right? Like I was growing along the way and I was making those decisions over time. It wasn't something that I didn't have answers to all of these things at the outset. So I had to be kind and careful with myself because I needed to make sure that I didn't either psych myself out, make decisions or answer questions for people without giving them space to answer it for themselves. And by that I mean decide that I wasn't a good fit. This is to your current question. I wasn't a good fit for them without them having said it already. It's like, well, we don't know. Let's sort of figure it out. But what I did know that was that I needed to be sure about the work that I was doing in the moment. And I think that asking myself the questions that you just mentioned, the questions like that, do I want to do it is one thing, but do I need to do it? Am I skilled enough to do it? Do I have the expertise to do it? Were the kinds of questions that I needed to answer because I did have to make decisions or did have to shape the work in a way that I thought was unique and defining and singular in its own way because there's so many people doing all of this work, especially in a city like New York. Everybody's doing all these things, right? Everybody's got a hook. And so one of the things that helped me answer those kinds of questions and in part the questions that you just asked is a colleague saying to me when I was thinking about pitching a project, and I was like, I don't think I can do that because I've never done it before. She said, Candace, they're not hiring you for what you've done. They're hiring you for your brain, your capacity to do it, the past capacity to think through it. And that was a light bulb moment for me because I was like, right, I don't need to have done everything in order to bill it, to promote it, to sell it, right? To offer it because it is the brain power, the intellectual capacity, the reasoning, analytical capacity that they're buying. She was like, they're not buying whether you did it last year. They're buying your brain's power. And I was like, right. So conversations that I have, but that took me some time to get to. So conversations that I have now about how do clients decide if we're right, a good fit, or vice versa. Some of it I think is very basic, and I'm very pleased and grateful that we can do this now. Do we like each other?
Because y'all go in.
Can I get in the trenches with you when it's like really hard and challenging? We don't know the answer to the question, or it's 3 o'clock in the morning, because sometimes it comes down to that kind of thing too. Do I know your children's names? Do you care about mine? Are you the kind of people that can have well, I won't say have a drink together, because almost anybody can have a drink with, but do I want to have a drink? Or how about this? How about this? Can I have dinner with you without having a drink?
That part, because that's a very different.
Can we sit and break bread without being relaxed through the miracle of mood altering substances? Can I do that? But then when it comes to the work itself, I mean, those are important questions for me. And I do feel that. And I just sort of have to feel it instinctually. But when it comes to the work itself, do I find challenge in the work? This is for me answering, how do I know it's right for us? Is there challenge in the work? Is there something here that I've not done before? Because that excites me. And I think you can't fake it. Like you said a minute ago, that I had just lit up. I didn't know that. I thought I was just talking, but you felt it through the screen. I think you can't fake those things. And if there's something that is new for me that I've not experienced, something's going to click for me. And I'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait to do this. This is going to be so exciting if you select us. And from the client's perspective, I think that we're very clear about, transparent about the space that I'm in terms of wanting to work with organizations that are rooted in communities of color, or somehow align. If you're not an organization led by people of color or focused on people of color, you've got to be aligned with people of color, because that's my truth. That is my identity. And I am not going to because this is, as when we create these things as a creative, and having created something that comes from you, that is supported by a whole team, which is amazing, but it came from you. You protect it fiercely, and it is you and who you are. And so if there's something that comes into the space that does not align with that, or somehow works to counter or contravene that, you're not going to do it. And so I'm like, all y'all can be white, but if you have anybody in this institution that looks like me and sounds like me, or is focused and cares about people like me, then we probably can't rock, because that's just what I wake up with every day. And even with my team members who are not white, are not people of color, they're not Black, they're not Latino, they're not Asian, I'm very clear. In a couple of them, I'm like, this is how it goes. And that's in the interview process. Like, this is how it goes over here. So I need you to be comfortable with language. I need you to be comfortable with the point of departure and the point of entry into the space, because that's just what it's going to be. So yeah, I think that we're very clear about those things. So is there joy? Is there alignment in terms of lifting up people, and people who are quote unquote traditionally marginalized, but who are the numerical majority? And is there intrigue and newness? All of that has to be ideally baked in. And then sometimes people are like, Candace, I know you don't really want to do it, but I need it. Can you do it real quick?
Okay, here we go. But what I think is so interesting is when you are that clear about your values and your focus and skilled in what you do, you attract the people that can also, like you said, ride and vibe with you in that way. And it's clear to know, it's clear, we might not be a good fit, but that's okay, because we are clear that this is how we work, from our organizational values to even the people that we hire, all of that, and the type of work that we do. That level of clarity is important when designing or launching your own organization. It might not come to you right at the beginning. Like, maybe this happens over an evolved period of time, but that type of clarity helps people know that they are on the right track when even looking for you, if you all are a fit. And I think one of the other things that you said that I thought was so important, because I also have a company that has my name in it, and I'm gonna shout out Lisa Yancey too, because Yancey Consulting is another company. We have our names in our company.
100%.
Right? So it's not something that we're just doing out here. Like, these are our name. Like, we're working towards something because of who we are. And even though every client that hires you may not be able to work directly with you, they understand what it means to be a team member at CJAM. And I think that that is so critical and definitely something that makes people keep coming back to work with you. So,
Yeah. Well, this is the hope, right? That's certainly the goal. And I do count it a blessing and a privilege when people do want to engage us. So to the point that you just made, because this is a sign of growth and it's something that I wrestle with when we engage firms, clients rather, and it is not a project that is designed to always interface with me
mhm,
or to interface with me as a point of contact. I make it, and it's probably not a good choice. I acknowledge this. I do make it a point to interface with the client on some level because you chose us.
mhm.
I won't say because of me. I don't believe that, but I'm in there somewhere. It's important to honor people's choices and their willingness to partner with us by saying, if you need me, when you need me, I will always be there, but I will always at the initiation of a project, even if I'm not project director, I'm still connected to the client
That's right.
because I think that's really important. That's a choice that I made when I through my half-hearted prayer, because sometimes I just be saying stuff out loud and it's not like a whole full-throated prayer. So I call it half-hearted. Oh, I just want to be able to not have to do all the projects by myself all the time. And then when you get there, it's like, oh, well, this is really awesome. I'm so grateful. And because of that, I am so committed to making sure that I have touch points with every client no matter what, because it's because of them that I'm able to say, "Oh, I don't have to be in every conversation every time or
That's right.
lead every project." So, yeah.
I feel like, and I agree with you, making sure that the client sees you at some point is important because in some way, shape, or form, they align with your ethos and the way you work or who you work or what you've done for other people. So that is powerful. I'm wondering, I think I've heard you talk about this a little bit, but I'm curious if you would have anything additional to add. How has the vision of CJAM evolved over the past 2 decades almost?
Well, that is a big one. But I just wanna say one of the when our in our next, like, catch up lunch, we're gonna do this again. You can answer all the same questions for me
Oh,
because I
I'm
wanna know.
happy to. I'm happy to. It's so funny. As I talk to all of you fabulous people, sometimes I end up throwing in a little bit in about myself because it just feels right. And I told myself this year, MCE, McNeil Creative Enterprises, my company is 9 years old. And for the last 8 years, we've just been working behind the scenes. We haven't really been talking or saying anything work or sit on a panel or maybe participate in a podcast. But I said, you know what, this year I'm going to start writing, I'm going to start talking more. That self, how do you say, where I put the idea to be leading some sort of thing versus being invited to sit on somebody else's panel. I was very passive in the way that I was, if you will, marketing or just even being present or visible about the work that I did. This year I said, I'm going to start talking a little bit more, mostly because I was like before, like, does anybody need to hear all another voice? Because there's so many people talking. The space is filled with perspectives, and I think that's okay, right? Because again, to our earlier point, you can figure out where you need to land based on what you hear. And also, as someone that works behind the scenes, I'm just like, I'll just do my thing. One of our clients was like, "Allison, you need to talk more and tell these things that you always tell to us to others." And I'm like, "Really?" But, I think that when you work behind the scenes, the way that we work, you, me, Lisa, and others, Hallie Hobson, shout out to Hallie. It's like the work goes so deep for such a specific amount of time that I don't know about you, but I feel like at the end of our conversations, if we weren't friends before, now we are because we don't spend all this time together. And
It's
it's
so
like,
intimate. Oh
yeah.
my goodness, you just gave me another idea. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so intimate and it's hard to, I mean, well, when you think about, I always say to our team, like contractors versus consulting. Consulting, like the work that you and I described that we do, it's a very deliberate way of engaging it to create a better reality, but it's the way that you do it that contributes to that shift, to that evolution. And I think that giving flowers to people like you because this work is the backbone of many organizations, specifically Black-led arts organizations or those that support communities of color, like you said. It is incredible that they see what they need or they see that you have what they need, and then they bring you on to support them in their journey. I feel like that is no small feat because you can start an organization, you could start a company. It doesn't guarantee that you'll have business that you actually want to do or business with people that you actually wanna work with, and maybe that's not the case at the beginning of the company because it evolves, but getting to the point where you can, that is definitely admirable. I just wanna, again, give you flowers, but now I gotta ask about what's one misconception about your work?
One misconception, yeah. Okay, so I think that, well, I think I said it at the top of the call. You work with artists, you manage people, but I think that in like the fullness of the work, 2 things, because I also wanna make sure that I finish answering your previous question about the arc over time. You said just the way that you work with folks, and I said it's very intimate. That is probably a word that I would use to describe how the work has evolved. That's what you were asking, how the work has evolved over time. The realization for me, my own growth, A. B, the realization that this work is really, really intimate. And we don't say this probably publicly because we would never attempt to stand in the shoes of other professionals or suggest that we have their credentials. We do not. I am not a therapist, but this work is therapy. I am not a clinician at all, but the intimacy and the conversations. Okay, so I might say it's therapy, it's head washing in a bowl, it's feet rubbing
That's right.
in the euphemistic sense. So I am a foot washer, I am a hair washer in a salon. I am a therapist putting you on the couch, like all of those things. So those are the things that those are some of the things I realized this work is. And that's also why what I described to you before about needing to be care about the organization and the people and needing to like them and know that you can break bread with them and talk about your children is so important because you get in and you said it, you go so deep for an intense amount of time in a limited amount of time. You can't stand on ceremony. You have to be able to say, hold on, my child is losing their mind behind me. Let me go do that, and I'm gonna call you right back. People experiencing loss because life is happening while you're consulting, while we're doing this work. And so I learned that I had to, and we have to dispense with the professionalism of it all in order to get to the work most of the time, or rather, say it in a more sort of like forward-looking affirmative way, you have to encompass it all and be ready for it all in order to get to the work, and all of it means all the things that are life. So the, space giving it space to grow, giving every project an opportunity to grow and evolve, that's another way that the work has evolved over time. We don't presuppose what's gonna happen, and we say that upfront. We give you a frame. Without proposing, we give all frames. And then we acknowledge that and we say, now this thing is going to live and breathe as it will. And we have to be willing to give it space to do that. And we're very clear and upfront about that. And a misconception. I think one misconception that people have, I'm going to speak less about the work that we do and more about like the business ownership part of it, is that it is either super expensive or conversely not gainful. Maybe I'll start with that one. That you can't live a whole meaning the work is not gainful. To work in a space that is arts and culture focused and nonprofit institution focused often presupposes the idea that it is not gainful, that you can't be a successful, gainful business owner working in this space. Like, huh, you employ people, And you've been doing it for how long? The perception, I think, is that you're gonna do it, and you do it now, and it's like, "Oh, that's cute," and you do it for a few years, and then you move on because you just never made enough money. The ability to build a life with it and support other people's lives is not what people expect to hear coming out of your mouth when you say you work in the arts and cultural industry supporting nonprofit institutions that are largely focused on peoples of color.
That is what it's that point when you're trying to explain something that you do. And because it's not readily accessible to anybody necessarily, you find different words to make it catch. But then it's like you do that and you have a whole company and you've been doing that and you employ people and you've created your own life. You must be doing something right. Like I've heard
Yeah.
that, but it's like
Yeah.
it
But
is.
even it's like the not the shock and awe, but the surprise. You'd be surprised that it's possible. It's like, "Huh, how you so surprised?"
Yeah. And people get inspired by it.
Yeah.
I have had many a friend say, I think I want to do something, follow a vision or a passion that I have. I don't necessarily want to hire a lot of people, but yeah. And so we talk about like the possibilities because I think a lot of times, and that's part of the reason why this podcast exists, the possibilities can be endless. Like,
Yeah.
and you have to have the curiosity, the clarity, the discipline, a clear idea of who you are, who you aren't to stay the course. And I think that that is what I hear you talking about. And the other thing I want to name, and I don't think I've said this, but just to name some of CJAM's incredible clients, Apollo Theater, Dance Theater of Harlem, the International Association of Blacks in Dance, the Heinz Endowments. I know there was a government, maybe multiple government agencies that you.
Well, our biggest now is they're actually not government, but people think that they are, so I'll name them the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
Okay. As you hear the organizations that CJAM is supporting, they are in their respective industries, well respected, doing incredible work, making sure that audiences are experiencing talent and that they're experiencing it in a very distinct way. And I think when you talked about supporting organizations and it being intimate, and then earlier, I want to say I think you said something about traditionally marginalized, but definitely by number, the majority. Because our organization does the same thing. We support projects and engagements that are in service to our people being able to do what they want to do with their art. And
Mhm.
in doing that, when you start talking about the therapy and the shampoo and of the heads and rubbing of the feet, I want to go back to that because that is a part of the work that I think that might be a misconception because it's like creating this container where the client can be vulnerable and transparent about whatever it is that they're navigating and know that because you've created this container of trust that you will and your team will help move the narrative or help them achieve a goal. Not everybody can connect with organizations in that way. Not everybody creates the space for organizations to feel like they can be whoever they are. And many organizations, specifically those that are in communities of color, they don't want to show up in any other way than who they are and feel like I need someone that can ride with me as I am who I am. And I think that that part is another masterful part that makes what you do, what I do, what many other people that are in our same sort of path unique because we understand. You started this conversation saying you went to Howard. I didn't say anything about it because I went to Hampton, but I love Howard.
It's a part of our story. You can't tell a story without saying that part.
Listen, Howard, and then I'm an AKA, she's a Delta. We have many ways to create comedy and fun. But like the truth is going to an HBCU, having a distinct commitment and dedication to your people means that you show up in a way that's natural to you too. So it's not like you're even putting on to be in space. This is who we are. And I think that reality is something that helps move the work even further. And it's not that if some other consultant came in and did not understand or didn't go deep, that they would not be able to reach some goal. But I'd say the ripple effects because of that connection that you have are long lasting. And so I just want to name that because it is true. You can run a business that's lucrative doing work in the way that feels values aligned. And I know in our conversations, our team conversations, someone might say, I need to go get my child, or my dog is sitting on my lap. And some people might be like, that is so unprofessional. And it's like, did we get the work done? Absolutely. And I think that when we think about who gets to determine what it means to make progress and what professionalism looks like, I just think that that is such a limited way of thinking. And yeah, so I'm not going to get on a soapbox, but this next question is kind of related to that, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. How do you ensure that community voice and ownership shows up in your consulting work?
If you're on the CJAM website, which is www.cjamconsulting.com, I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll be in the show notes.
Yes.
Inside of our website, our values, it is expressly stated that we are dedicated to ensuring that community voice is centered and that it either definitively sort of like makes its case, states its presence, or is encouraged to take up space, because sometimes it's not always that apparent, right? Depending on the organization. But it is expressly stated that we are committed to that as an organization and as a firm, and we are wanting to make sure that our client partners feel held in that and know that who they are in all of their fullness and their authenticity is sort of demanded. I don't mean to be overbearing, but it is not just expected. We pull it forth because we don't otherwise think that we are doing the work if we are not clearly stating what we are here to do and who we are, and likewise asking our client partners to mirror that. So when we say we're focused on authenticity and honoring voice and identity, like, because that's what made us attracted to you in the first place, right? Your authentic self, the fullness of who you were. So, and if it doesn't show up in the work, then we are wasting your time and your money. So yeah, I can't say that there's something in particular that we do to make sure that it shows up, or that we, but there are things that we do to make sure that we create space for it if it feels like, all right, we're not paying as much attention to that, because sometimes we understand the work is being done at the command or the behest of another entity, a third entity. So we understand when that happens, be it a funder or some other obligation that the organization has to meet. And so they're not sort of like self-selecting to do this work. Might do it differently. So there are things that we have to do and say that we make sure to ensure that we're still honoring the voice and the identity and pulling the true self of the organization forward. But usually we don't have to do that.
Okay, you've worked with everyone from community rooted based organizations to high profile institutions. What's something the broader field still doesn't fully understand about supporting cultural organizations of color?
I think that the broader field still doesn't, I think they understand it. They won't be ballsy enough to commit to it. And that is that by definition, going back to some of the earlier things I said about the business model of arts and cultural organizations, creating anew every time, which is why we love the experience, right? It mirrors who we are, but it's a new creation every time, which is probably why you go see that show every time it comes up and somebody does a revival. You go see that one too, because it's a new thing. And by definition, it cannot be created faster and cheaper. It has to be created anew and therefore must be resourced. Does not mean that a profit is not possible, which is why it is called not for profit. That is not our leading imperative. But you can absolutely be an institution that creates a profit. But because of our business model, or the business model of many organizations, it is less likely that we reach things like economies of scale where we produce it faster and cheaper, and therefore it has to be resourced. And that resourcing is evergreen. Resourcing organizations for 3 years or 5 years ain't gonna get it. I understand that these organizations, that funding imperatives shift, and there are many, many organizations and peoples and groups that have to be resourced. So you got to sort of like make different choices. But the belief that, and this is the misconception, that an infusion that can support an organization for 3 years will turn the tide is not a thing. That is not true. Organizations have to be resourced continually because of nature of what we do and the way that the business model is constructed. And so that resource has to be continual, full throated, and it can't come with all these ridiculous conditions. But that's another question that you didn't ask, but I think is inherent and embedded, I guess, in the larger question. So yeah, that's what I would say about
Yeah.
something that I feel like we've learned it, we know it. People just won't be confident enough or courageous enough
Mm-hmm.
to shift the paradigm.
That's right. As we're talking about the work, the support, the who, I find myself feeling moved to just add even more clarity to how and or what you do. Could you give us an idea of what is I know there's no typical day or week or like what is it, how does your work end up supporting an artist on stage? Like
In product, right? The artist on stage, the art on the wall in the museum or the festival that comes to your city, your community every year is supported through the development of a plan and a budget and people to effectuate that plan and manage that budget and raise money to pour into that budget. CJAM's work is about focusing in one lane, focusing on that plan. What is the plan that is going to get the artist on stage next year and the year after that and then the year after that, or shift and bring some new artists in, or the plan that is going to ensure that we have the right people with the right expertise doing this work. And that plan takes work and it takes thought. It takes writing things down and doing it again and refining it and research, looking at what we used to do, looking at what's happening across town to see if there's partnership opportunity or if there's a gap that exists. And so that research around what's happening in the world, the market, that research to figure out this is a whole other space that has never had anything like that. All of those things come together to create this plan that ultimately leads to the right people, the right set of circumstances, the tools, the partners, and the money to come together to put the artists on stage. The other lane is what is the space, the container that's going to hold this. And by that, I mean the physical space, the theater, the short term amphitheater or a temporary constructed space. And in that sense, it's like thinking about when you're ready to buy a house, what is it who are all the people? You've got your architects, your engineers, your inspectors, and then all of the trades that come together. In the performing arts space, what we do is not decide, well, we do decide who those people are sometimes, but not tell those people all the things that they need to do. They come with their ideas. We are responsible for making sure that those ideas all come together and all those expertise come together with the audience in mind. What is the experience that we want our audiences to have? And how do we help all these people who are architects and engineers and sound designers, meaning sound designers in the construction space? How do we make sure all those people are coming together and bringing their expertise that they deploy in all kinds of spaces make the most sense in the theater space, in the arts and culture space? Because sometimes they do this work in a really amazing way, but they don't always do it in ways that make sense together inside of the arts and cultural space. So we represent the owner of the space to make sure that their voice is heard and their voices carried through to from the original idea to the design process to through the construction process to make sure that when you sit down in that seat, what you experience is what they intended from the very beginning.
So you take their vision and you help them implement or execute it and bring the people together to make it possible while representing your client's desire, purpose, things that you know are necessary. That is incredible and definitely requires a lot of trust because you're working on behalf of your client to help them reach their vision. So then what type of people do you have on your team? Are you like, how does that work? Do you contract out or?
Depending on the size of the project, and this is the way we're designed as a firm, we can contract and expand based on the needs of the project. So you always have to have, well, you don't always, but in our boutique firm lane, have resources or rather connections to people that you can bring in for projects based on the type of project. They have their own companies or they are sole practitioners themselves, and then they work with different people in different companies based on the projects that are coming up. So yes, we have those folks. But then there's also the CJAM team. And CJAM, another accidentally on purpose feature of the way that we work is everyone at CJAM, with the exception of one person, and that's self-determined one person, they said this about themselves, is an artist or a creator. That was accidental because it wasn't the way that I intentionally designed the company, but it came to be that anyone that we engage had to be an artist or a creator and or a business owner, because I believe that we bring a certain kind of sensibility to this work. When you own it, you create it, you think differently about others when you're engaging who are also owners and creators because you're standing in the space yourself. So everyone at CJAM is an entrepreneur, an artist, a creator, a maker, and active in that work. They are still doing that work as a developer, meaning developing buildings or housing, as a photographer, as an entrepreneur that works in also in consulting, but doing other kinds of consulting work, as a creator of a new burlesque or speakeasy show that they're trying to pitch and trying to get picked up. So, because all of us are in that space actively, I just think that the brain is always thinking and moving and clicking in different ways that have us, that allow us to work differently with the client, because I feel like there's just a different urgency, a different knowing, and a different spirit about that, sort of like that hustle spirit as an entrepreneur, as an owner of a business, as a leader of a business that has always got to be priming the pump, right? And building the pipeline.
Yeah. No, thank you for saying that because there's a certain view that you have or perspective you have when you actively are creating or if you're performing or because you've done this on your own, you can now apply that to someone else's vision. It is helpful so that when you're working with your client, they know you've been through what
Yeah.
they're trying to get to. And so that is amazing. Shout out and flowers to your team. Okay. This work, you mentioned that it's intimate, it's a variety of ways of showing up. It pulls on different parts of the brain, creative, analytical, all of that.
Mhm.
The mental aspect, the emotional, the spiritual. What practice helps you protect your own energy and lead with clarity?
Oh, I wish I had a solid, succinct answer and say, I do it so successfully. It's amazing. I have this thing, which is probably not healthy. It's certainly not healthy at this age. Sometimes instead of saying, "Well, let me think about it," I say, "Let me drink about it." I don't know where I got that from. It just came out my mouth one day. I was trying to say, "Let me think about it and let me go have a drink." I just said, "Let me drink about it and I'll get back." So there's that. I'll just say probably some things that I know that people do, that whether I do them or not, I know that they're helpful. So whiteboards, I got away from whiteboards myself because of COVID, because we weren't all coming together and looking at the board together. It was just me. And so I'd be like just writing it down, but like, I don't need the board. Who else can see it? But still doing it in the virtual space. But I think that truthfully, there are a couple of things. There are a couple of things that I used to do that I understand from clients are still helpful to know. So I'll say them. As an entrepreneur, as you're starting out, if you're starting a new business or you have a business and you have a home-based business, which so many of us do at this point, I do believe it's really important to keep your workspace your workspace. When you come to work, come to work. Come to your office, come to your desk, come to your table, but that is your workspace, and make it so. Create the ritual around it that it requires, that you deserve. So it's not just like the baby's bottle and the kids' workout gear or your own workout gear all over your desk. Like, that is your workspace. It is a sacred space. Maintain it as such, even if it is the table. So I think making your workspace when you're done, close the laptop, leave the space, leave the room, whatever it is. I think that's really important because it shifts the body and therefore the energy and the thinking. I think the value of getting up and moving your body, going outside, especially if you have a home-based business, you'll realize you'll be like, I've been here all week and go nowhere. Go get your cup of coffee, go walk around the block, go walk the dog, like still do those things that keep your body active because you're not doing things like going to the water cooler. Hey, Jim, you remember, did you send me that? There's no water cooler. Create your water cooler moments in your space. I said whiteboards. I said walking around, make your workspace your workspace. I get this question a lot. So I'm like, I used to just rattle them off. For me, I think, and they're all virtual at this point, the different platforms, this is a sort of like a tactile project management based sort of response. But I think having spaces where you can compartmentalize, because as an entrepreneur, managing people, managing clients, managing just different things, you have to be able to compartmentalize in order for your own peace, but also for the protection and support of your clients. They need to know that they're the only client that you have. They need to feel that. And so what are ways to do that? If you got a million yellow pads, fine. But project management software, we do a lot of things like dashboards so clients can see. They really want to see you and talk to you. But if they don't, they want to know that they live somewhere in your universe, and showing them that through their own project dashboard, virtual dashboard, I think is a really important, this is a little bit off topic, but a really important tool. But doing that, those kinds of things give me peace. They help me feel better and feel secure about the work and drink less about it when the client is not struggling or feeling antsy. Because if they do, then I am, and then I'm not carving out the space for me. So creating those project management virtual tools, I think, are really important to help keep my own head clear so I can go do something else.
This might be related to what you said in some way, because I heard you talk about some that you do, some that other people do. But, if you were giving advice to someone that wanted to start their own company, or maybe you find yourself giving the same advice to your clients, what would, over and over again, what's the type of advice that you would offer?
I feel like those are different questions, like people starting out their own business and people who are clients who are in the thing. So starting your own business, some of the things that I just said are some of the things that I tell people. But in addition to things like make your workspace, create your water cooler moments. I'm like, I need to hurry up and write this book. I got all these chapter titles, but one of the other things is, and I would say this is the most important thing, starting a business. Before you start a business and dedicate resources or acquire resources through loan, venture capital funding, whatever have you, ensure that you as an individual have those resources carved out for yourself. So before you say, can I create a business, and make sure that business is okay, make sure, are you okay? Do you have your 3 to 6 months of savings? Do you have your health insurance secure? Do you have those things for you as an individual, as a family, if you have a family, in a very clear and distinct space before you start the business? Because they get conflated and can get muddy so fast, and you just lose track of a lot of things as a consequence. And so ensuring that you are well, maybe not covered, because that suggests you got to have all the money, but that those things are in good order for you as an individual, I think is really important. For a client, some of the things that I feel like I find myself saying a lot is everybody has to own ownership of the people, ownership for the people, not of the people, ownership for the people. We often engage in this work with the executive team, the senior teams, and then the staff is like, oh, yeah, I did meet you one time, and then the work is over. In order to make this work live, and as we like to say, not end up on a shelf collecting dust, because who needs to write another plan? Who needs to give you another frame or template or whatever? The people have to own it. Otherwise, it won't live. It won't live in the same way. And you certainly, as an individual, can't do it all, right? And take on it all. Otherwise, it does become that, oh, that was such a really great, powerful moment when we worked with you. But we lost track of a lot of the things. Everybody wasn't owning it, and therefore wasn't feeling or didn't feel accountable to it. So I say ownership, and it's ownership and accountability, but sometimes accountability gets such a bad rap. Like, you need to be responsible, and so I'm gonna make you accountable. Ownership. If you feel like you own it, then it can live in a different way. And the other thing that I would say to clients is long game. I really find that having conversations that pull us out of the moment, out of this 8-month engagement, this 1 year engagement, and think long game. Not even if you're not doing a strategic plan, it doesn't have to be a strategic plan, but just be thinking about the long game. Where are we trying to go? Why does this even matter? Will it matter in 5 years, in 3 years? And so sometimes I think long game, and long game could be 10 years. But honestly, a lot of times with our organizations, we say long game and we say 3 years. That's long. And so great, let's talk about these next 3 years, because that's a long game that people aren't automatically thinking about.
Listen,
Certainly as small business owners, right? Because it's
7 months.
so
Look how much
it,
changed in the United
yeah,
States in 7 months. So you just never know for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Mhm.
So
I am like, we keep talking, and whenever we get on the calls just to catch up, it's like this. So to our listeners, know that these are authentic conversations. I just want to, I want to give you an opportunity to let the listeners know how they can find your work, how they can stay engaged or find you on these interwebs.
yes, so thank you for asking. I mentioned it. We are at www.cjamconsulting.com. That is where all of our work lives, our case studies, short case studies in brief, so that anyone can get a sense of the kind of work we do, not just the list of clients. And the representations there are our clients, not just our words. Our words, yes, but also our clients. We are also on Instagram, though we don't post as much as we should. CJAM NYC on Instagram. And then we also, or should say, I am also at CandaceJackson.com. And that is the space for individuals who are thinking about creating the work, their work, thinking about entrepreneurship, or who may already be, but are less interested in support for their institution and more focused on their individual path. And so we invite you to engage with us in either of those ways at cjamconsulting.com or candacejackson.com.
We will make sure to list all of that in the show notes so that the listeners can make sure that they find you. And many of the gems that you've dropped, we have to make sure that we mention those as well, because Candace, you have dropped gems for entrepreneurs, from leaders, for self, like all of the things. And I just want to say to you, I came into this entrepreneurship game some time ago, but this consulting work 9 years ago, and you had been doing it many, many years before me, and you have been always so welcoming and generous with your time and just helpful in thinking about what it looks like to be a consultant, or just having a conversation like, whoa, this is a time. And knowing that you're not alone, especially as a leader of a company, it can be isolating. So I
Yeah.
appreciate the time and the space that you take, not just for your clients, but for your contemporaries that are out here trying to do whatever it is that we're doing, and recognizing that we're following behind you. 19 years, I'm 9 years in. Something had to be laid by you and Lisa, and I want to say Donna Walker, many, many consultants that have
Yeah.
done so much. And so I just want to again give you your flowers. To our listeners, is there anything that you'd like to say before we close up this conversation or wrap up this conversation?
Thank you, Allison. I think I would say everything you just said to me, I'm grateful for, and thank you. I receive, because you also have to be willing to receive
That's
the
right.
plaudits, right? And the flowers. So thank you for that, because it's important to hear. I also want to say back at you, it's 19 years, but I'm like, yeah, but then I mean, it feels like all these other things happen. So I think that you're not alone, as what you said is absolutely true. And being in a space to support and get support from colleagues. So I say the same to you. I think it's been great having the conversations, our check-ins that we do, because I think your work is amazing. I mean, we're on your podcast. Your podcast. This is so great. And so, yeah, I think if you're listening, it's because you already know Allison and you know her work and you know the podcast. So obviously you will keep listening. But I would just say that if you're new, the work, and you've listened to this episode, the work that Allison does is incredible at MC Art. So if you don't know, find out more. For me, it's for me. You're saying this for me and to me. And I'm saying all I can do is reflect it back to you about you. And that's what I would say to the listeners. I think it's important that it goes all around. It's for all the things, all of us. It's been great. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for all that you do, all that you do, all that you will continue to do. To our listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of Cultural Catalyst. I'm so happy to call Candace a cultural catalyst in this great work that we do.
I finally made it.
Listen, I'm going to need to get some t-shirts made because y'all are doing, I'm going to go ahead and say, we are doing some phenomenal things. And
affirmative.
Yes. And so thank you for listening and see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Cultural Catalyst. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us for more inspiring stories from the world of arts and entertainment. You can find me on social media at MCE Arts and Allison T. McNeil on LinkedIn. Please leave a review and tune in to our next episode for more creatives behind the curtain. See you next time.